Hey, Jeremy Lee here, voice of Makoto in Persona 5, and I am so excited that you found your way here to the Raw Dogs podcast because as a fellow cheesehead and a lover of all things Wisconsin, how can you not want to hang out with these guys who are spreading their love of gaming and making the world a brighter, more positive, definitely more fun place. So check it out, hang out for a while, and enjoy the Raw Dogs podcast.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Raw Dogs, your favorite podcast about RPGs pretending to be sports games and sports games inside of RPGs. Now, this is part 2 of the Final Fantasy X episode. Very excited to talk about the story here. My name is Brad, and I don't know if this is my favorite Final Fantasy, but we might know by the end of this episode.
My name is Tyler. I think this is my favorite Final Fantasy.
But you don't have a ton.
But I don't have a ton.
But it's still your favorite.
Yeah. I mean, out of like 5 now.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean,
that's pretty good.
I got rookie numbers, but we're getting them up there. Yeah. More and more. I think I might buy 16 tonight. I've been thinking about it for a long time.
It's weird how people don't really talk about it too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it got, people were talking about like, oh, it got snubbed for Game of the Year awards. And obviously like 2023 was like a very stacked year for games and yada, yada.
Pretty stacked year.
I feel like Final Fantasy 16 is absorbing, I feel like, or not, like what a lot of other Final Fantasy games, I think a lot of Zelda games do, where like the naysayers to it are so vocal at first. And it's sort of, it comes off like it's almost a mixed reception for FF16. When most people I talk to, I feel like on an inner circle are like, no, FF16's like really, really good. So I don't know. I'll be interested at some point to play it. I feel like I would enjoy it.
When you get through 718 Super Nintendo games.
Right, that's the problem, yeah.
Whose voice is that I'm hearing, those sultry tones?
Oh, yes. I'm Spike Vegeta, and I like to speedrun video games. I like playing Final Fantasy games a lot. I just played through 10 about a year and a half ago. I'm sure a lot of these story beats are going to be fuzzy in my brain, but I'm excited to go back to Spira and kind of remember this kooky journey that all these characters went on.
And we're also joined once again by the wonderful Muttski.
Hello, I'm back. I'm excited to talk about the story and characters of this game a little bit more, and defend the hit game that is Final Fantasy 16.
I thought you were going to say defend the cloisters of trials, and I was about to have an issue.
Yeah.
The cool and best thing about the Cloister of Trials is when they're fucking over.
Yeah. God. There is one of those. I must have been on it for an hour. It was like halfway through the game. I can barely remember. It was awful.
Man. Talk about a momentum killer, a pacing killer.
Yes. Every time.
All right. And now we're going to have one person run around carrying only one sphere despite 2 hands. And
If I didn't have the strategy guide by the end, I wouldn't have finished.
I know later Hosen have pockets too. You can carry around multiple spheres. But sadly not.
Pathetic.
Thanks again for being here, guys. And yeah, so part 1, we talked a lot about the systems and the gameplay, and I want to discuss those as it comes up. You two are both streamers and speedrunners. So if you have any insight on systems or like weird things with bosses or things that like are integral to the game, definitely let us know, because I'm curious. I watched like a history of speedrunning FF10. So when you mentioned the Cavern of the Stolen Faith with the no encounter in the last episode, I was aware of that. As man, that's too far into the game to have like a make or break moment.
Yeah. And they got to hit it because it saves a ridiculous amount of time, believe it or not, to not run into encounters every 12 steps.
How about that?
The most important thing. But yes, we start this beautiful game with one of the most gorgeous compositions ever. This piano, it is like a picture of that piano on fire and someone's playing it. Uematsu is going harder than he's ever gone. And then a man with colors that don't match in lederhosen.
It's called style, Brad.
And a Meg Ryan haircut walks in. And he says, "This is my story." And I'm going to be honest, guys. This playthrough, I've never seen something more tonally jarring. The most beautiful sounds and like something that is pushing camp to levels it's never been. It is the most out there. And I do love Tidus. I think the dialogue isn't written. They kind of Tidus is supposed to be kind of a naive character. And you feel his progression. I just feel like the director probably pushed the voice actor into too much of like the whiny sounding voice.
Sure.
I don't know. But just to hear two Xanarkand from Uematsu mixed with Tidus made me feel, oh man, I've never like heard something so beautiful and something so not pretty walked into a frame to talk.
It's a little bit almost like Final Fantasy's general tone of the series, though, right? It's like they do have these like very like world-shattering stories, beautiful moments in them, and you're also like talking to Moogles and you're on Chocobos and shit, and like kind of how they meld those tones together. Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
All right, I don't want you to answer this now, but I want you to think about it as we talk about the story, because I have heard a multitude of answers. All right, so. You kind of referenced what he leads off with, and he says this like 5 times in the game. I just want to know, at the end of us talking about this, I want to know which of you think this is Tidus's story, or if you think it is someone else's. Just kind of keep that in mind. I've heard variants and answers. I'm just curious where you guys are all at after we kind of like lay everything out.
Yeah.
I know Tidus's answer.
Nobody else matters. This is my story. It's like, yo, Tidus, Kamari's got a lot of emotional value here too, dude. You're talking a lot of shit about everyone here. Imagine walking into your group of friends and just being like, I matter more than you. Oh, my boy. I guess he didn't have a great father figure growing up. And he's lived a rich life. He's got a nice little bungalow. Tidus, he's very naive because he's just lived a life where he hasn't had a lot of trials other than Blitzball.
One could say he's living the dream life.
Hey.
Oh, dude, that's a reference.
It's a reference to the stuff.
You know, what's weird to me, reading the lore of this game, Tidus is a dream. And I have the Ultimanias and I was on the Wikipedias and I'm like, okay, what is like where is Tidus before? Like, we know he's from Xanarkand thousands of years ago, but one of the books say that Dream Xanarkand is a physical location elsewhere on the map that's so far away only Sin can travel to it. And some say like Sin travels through a dimension to the dream.
But if it's a physical location, it wouldn't be a dream. That sounds,
well, I mean,
contradictory.
But no, they dream. It's like how aeons are real from the faith. Essentially, Tidus is an aeon. They don't say it like that, but he's kind of an aeon. Xanarkand is a dream. This is not the real Xanarkand. And people can fall in love. People can have families. People die. Don't think about it too much. Essentially, fireflies, right?
I had a
Fireflies,
dream
baby.
that I lived at the bottom of the ocean, and I had a family, and it was like a whole life. And I woke up, and I was like contemplating going to therapy. I'm like, I just lost like years worth.
I lost my family.
Yeah, those dreams can get pretty crazy.
Sometimes if you get too close to Sin's toxin,
Yeah, you start saying weird shit.
They tell him so much. Don't talk about it, Tidus. He tells everybody who asks, like, "Yeah, I'm from Xanarkand, dude." Like,
Yeah, don't bring that up. People might get offended.
it's really weird that you're saying you're from like the Holy Land from the past, and you're a Blitzball player from there.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, my head's hurt. Is toxin. That's our boy Tidus. But it's a framing device. Essentially, we see for the journey further down the line, and then this is, you might be wondering how I got in this situation with this hot ass summoner and this weird cat guy. This is my story. Yeah. What happens next then? Where do we go?
From the start of the game?
Yeah.
Well, you're in Xanarkand, and you get the nice little like teach us how to blitz moment. You have an awesome cutscene that blew my 10-year-old mind, and I was like, this is on a PlayStation 2?
Blitzball looks hardcore.
And you got like that fucking industrial Rammstein heavy metal fucking lick playing in the background. I was like, this is the coolest shit I've ever seen in my entire life.
I love that Uematsu is always flirted because, he's got like the Black Mages band.
Yeah.
He is a big rock guy, and I love that he's just like, fuck it, we're doing rock music this time.
Yeah.
I love it. I wholeheartedly support it.
Big fan. Yeah, the Blitzball, it's so much cooler in this cutscene. Tidus jumps out of the ball of water and does like this sick dolphin kick. And I was super bummed when the whole Blitzball thing is on one plane.
Yeah. Well, and there's that in the opening cutscene when he just like rockets the guy out of the ball into the stands. Like a hockey player would put somebody over the bench. And I'm like, that's fucking gnarly. Where is that in the game? I want to wreck people.
That dude's dead. That dude is definitely dead.
We paid $87 for these tickets, and I got an elbow to the face. Best night of my life.
Best night of my life, dude. We have that sick scene, and then Sin interrupts the dream and arrives in Dream Xanarkand. We get introduced to everyone's favorite character, probably, at least, the coolest character.
He's up there, yeah.
Auron is a man of few words, a man with one arm he uses often, and he drinks a lot of something inside of a mysterious flask.
Yeah, I love him like toasting to Sin as he's coming in like, all right, dog, bring it
That's
in.
what I mean. It's his homie.
We got to get this party started.
Yeah, I like the introduction to the battle system. I think all of the tutorials in this game are pretty strong that teach you like attack these certain ones that matter. Auron is stronger than everybody, but like even when they bring the other characters in, it's super efficient at explaining how the systems work.
Yeah.
I've played many games where tutorials fail me miserably and I don't understand what I'm supposed to be doing, but
This was a good tutorial because I feel like I got a pretty good grasp on the game very quickly. And I remember getting my ass kicked as a kid. Like, A, I had no idea what I was doing. What's a sphere grid? And B,
he's just not using a sphere grid.
and I wasn't using items. Like, I was a kid. I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty intuitive game, and it took me the longest time to figure out that when they're showing you the sphere grid stuff, I was like, why the fuck are my button movements so delayed? Because it's a video showing you how to upgrade. You're not actually controlling anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fucking lag is this? This is stupid. And it made me mad.
But yeah, the tutorials in this game, like, I do think overall are like very, very strong. Because like I think I consider tutorials good. When I think back on the playthrough and I say, I don't remember a tutorial. I remember just like being there and just playing the game, and it's like very lightly guiding you into like all the different pieces you have to do. There's one exception that we'll get to when we get to it. But yeah, like very quickly you get in and just the pacing of the game is fantastic. How quickly all of a sudden just shit hits the fan. Sin shows up on town. You got to take out the little Sin spawns. And yeah, you just start moving forward.
If there's an apocalypse, I want Aaron to show up and be like, follow me. I'm like, yes, I think this will be okay now. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel safe. I feel real safe, Dad. Here's a sword.
Yeah, and that's a great scene. You go straight to Sin, and Aaron, he looks you in the face. He's like, does he say this is your story? I feel like he does.
He does say that. That's where Tidus gets the idea. You know, he's been misled by Orin. He trusts Orin. Yeah,
that's right.
He says that to him right before Tidus goes up into the Sin butthole, which is fitting now that I know that he was supposed to be a plumber. Like, I get it now. I understand what they're going for.
The original cutscene, Orin just hands him a plunger.
It isn't a sword that's too heavy.
This is your story.
It's just like a cast iron plunger.
We're going in.
I do consider Tidus kind of like, he's like the shiny objects person. You just like dangle the keys over here and he's like, oh yeah, that's legit. And then you dangle him over here and now he's over here. So I feel like when Orin tells him this is your story, Tidus is like, oh fuck yeah, you're right. It is.
He wasn't on board until then. Like, oh shit, you're right.
In his defense, you're looking at like your godfather who is being who is standing before a giant god's butthole. Apparently, it's hard not to believe what that man's going to say.
Because Aaron's like, I know what's going on here, and Tidus doesn't seem too weirded out by the fact this whole city's blowing up and there's enemies landing there. But Tidus gets yeeted. And he arrives in another land with some people speaking a different language. This is the first Tidus out of water part of the tale.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't know. The section with the submerged ruins, I think, is a little slow.
It's still, yeah, I agree. It's still kind of easing you into like, all right, now you get to explore these, I'm using air quotes, open areas of the game because it's very linear.
Yeah, there's like we run the Gasgano, something like that for the first time. I feel like mostly the bosses in this game are kind of well developed. Like a lot of them have gimmicks. They start off a little slow, but I don't know why so many video games need to have like that quest where we have to start a fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an important tutorial thing for video games. Tidus just keeps saying he's hungry. This is actually where Seymour used to live as a kid for a long time. These ruins.
I
didn't know that.
I did not catch that bit of the story. Yeah, I did not catch
The other thing that, like, I guess my bone to pick with it, as far as the fire thing goes, is that, like, they introduced this really early on. Like, okay, we're going to put you in this area. You need to find this item. It's going to work with this other item you need to find. And then come back to this central area and you're going to use those items. I don't know that you ever fucking do that again in the entire game.
Yeah, it's weirdly out of place with the rest of the game, thinking back on it, for sure.
It does feel out of place. And if anything, like the momentum for that opening, most video games start pretty slow. And to have that balls to the wall, heavy metal Blitzball, learning how to fight, for it to just all of a sudden hit the brakes so hard, I do find a little jarring when I go back to it.
Yeah, what's the function of that chapter of the game? Is it to establish loneliness, isolation, establish Riku and her race, the Albed? Like, what do you lose if you just jump straight to Besaid right there? He wakes up in Besaid.
It's nice to see Tidus realize how helpless he is.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's got to be the hopelessness.
He sees one attractive woman. He's like, thank God.
I do think the one thing that I guess it does is that, like, our understanding of the Albed before we hear any of the Albed hatred is like one that makes it more clear that, like, the hate towards the Albed is probably in some way unwarranted, or at least, overblown in the public sphere of the non-Albed communities. So I guess maybe just like having that exposure and being like, oh, these people are probably not all that fucking bad, I guess is maybe what they're going for.
I can see that.
This is also what their mission is. What you kind of help them do is to pull up the airship that you fly later on. That's what they're doing at these submerged ruins, is going to get the airship that you wind up having as your airship later, which is kind of cool. But yet again, Sin attacks and Tidus gets yeeted across the world one more time.
Next!
And he lands outside of Besaid Island, and he sees a Blitzball, and he knows everything is going to be fine.
It's like when you go to a different town and you're staying like for like the weekend, and you're like, man, what is there to do? And then you see like a Packer bar, and you're like, nice, everything's gonna be just fine.
Or you see an
Addams
Family pinball machine, and you're like, okay, stop, thank you. I can breathe for a second.
If you go back and rewatch the scene where Wakka and Tidus talk for the first time, it's like the first instance where you can really see the voice acting thing, because it's like Wakka's lines are spread out. He's like, "Can you do that move one more time?" Like it's like you can kind of see that they were trying to space it out so that it would fit the movement while also making him sound surprised that he had witnessed what he just witnessed. If you didn't pick up on it at all, I think that's actually a really good moment where you can see it pretty clearly.
I vividly remember like that being like this, because I think the voice acting is good, but like some of this, how they recorded or something was weird. I vividly remember that scene between them. It's funny having the context behind it now. Yeah.
They could have fixed all those problems and just creatively made the decision like, he's got a stutter, so all the dead space in between is just him rambling over his words.
That's the Wakka thing.
DiMaggio's got the skill. He could pull it off.
He can do anything.
Yeah.
When I found out, I had a PlayStation official magazine, and it said who the voice actors were. And when it said John DiMaggio was the voice of Odie from Garfield, Bender, and Kamari and Wakka, my fragile teenage brain was like, that's not even possible.
The range on this man.
Those are 4 different characters. The range on this man, he can be anything. He's a dog and a robot and a cat. I do like to imagine an alternate universe where Tidus was just a plumber and couldn't hit a Blitzball, and Wakka's like, yeah, you should figure your shit out, dude. We're leaving by. Like,
yeah, they actually, their friendship is like dawned a completely different way. Wakka's like, yeah, dude, Bada took a huge shit in my toilet, and like there's nothing we can do. And then Tidus is like, this is my story. Like,
oh, you're not good at Blitzball? I really don't have much I can say to you right now. Instead, he sees him hit a Blitzball. He's like, we should be friends, yeah?
Friends now, yeah?
You should play with us.
We haven't won in 100 years.
Wakka immediately sees victory signs in his eyes, and he's like, we should hang out sometime, dude.
It's implied they have not won a Blitzball match since he's been a member, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think they literally say they've never won.
Never.
Well, they say they've never made it out of the first, or like they've never made it to the championship or something, but the tournament's only 2 fucking rounds, so like
yeah.
Dude, even the announcers are so mean to Besaid. Like, oh, and look, the Aurochs came.
They showed up.
I think they drove the goers here.
Right.
Everyone's just so ruthless. Like, oh, looks like they're gonna be here, I guess. Oh, it's so funny.
God, sucks being the cupcake on the schedule, dude. Jesus.
Yeah, well, then they roll up and they see the Luca goers, and they've got like these 3 massive dudes. It's like they got like Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson just like rolling out, and he's like, yeah, dude, like this is who we're fucking playing. Like, I get it. I get why you guys got your asses kicked.
Oh, and they talk shit like made for TV Disney villains too.
Yeah. He's like, we were praying for some competition this year.
And then Tidus is like, bitch, you got it.
So funny.
It's crazy that Wakka has like the best attitude and the worst attitude about really different things.
Yeah. Sports up and up.
Everyone's cool in the world, yeah, except for the all bed. You had to Besaid Island, though. You kind of explained to Wakka who you are, that you're the star player of the Xanark and Abes. And it's amazing how much people are just like, don't talk about that. Don't explain who you are or what's going on in your personal life. We don't want that. just hang out with us. I can't imagine just somebody trying to explain who they are and everyone's like,
That's bad.
Yeah.
Everything you just said, bad. Don't do it again.
We don't like that.
Honestly, I'd prefer if you lied.
Yeah, his head's messed up. Don't listen to a word this guy says. He's on our team, though. He's the new player.
He hit ball good, though, so he can stay.
The CTEs are for real, I guess.
I mean, when you're getting thrown into the stands in your sport, like, I get it.
Yeah.
I want to know what a blitzball feels like.
Right? Covered in spikes.
That's not regulation. Those Wakka blitzballs are
Those
definitely
Wakka
not.
blitzballs. Like, we can't hit this.
Yo, I got this volleyball. Can you put a spike on it for me? It's my weapon.
You put a spike in it? Can you electrify it now? Please?
I like that Owaka's just running around with bags full of like spike volleyballs. Like someone's gonna buy this shit, dude.
Hell yeah.
He has him in his little backpack. He's like, oh yeah, I got this shit. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, we're early, but shout out to Wakka for having the best midriff in the game. That dude is just not caring. He is wearing his childhood clothing, and it is just
It just expanded on him.
and the littlest
took
tiny
this off.
hat. It's just
Also, respect to his family. The 23rd of his name, like, dude, they were really committed to the name Wakka.
yeah.
I respect that.
Tidus learns Xanarkand has been destroyed for thousands of years, and he starts hearing the famous like song that he knows is like a Blitzball song and the sign of the faith. He knows that something is weird, but he's like, whatever, I'll go play Blitzball.
I mean, that's really all you can do. Stuck in it out of time in a strange land.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go play some.
You just got to roll with it.
We quickly run into what everybody calls the best part of the game, the Cloister of Trials.
This was my favorite.
I loved this.
So the summoners, they go on a pilgrimage, and luckily we're at stop one of the pilgrimage, I guess. It's not super explained. Do you have to go to like every temple on your pilgrimage? I think
That's
so.
the plan, yeah. You go pray at pray at all of them, and then you pray at the final one, which is in Xanarkand.
You know what's not important though is just praying. Somebody designed sphere puzzles for these poor summoners who are just trying to save the planet. And it's like, oh, no. This is called a Killicosphere, and this is a destruction sphere. And good luck.
Don't mix them up.
And I swear to God, if you pick up two at the same time with your hands, I will eviscerate you.
I will shoot you in the head if you try and pick up two of these. Put it down and pick up the other one.
No, put that down and use your two hands to push that giant fucking pedestal across the room. But don't pick up the other the ball, or don't do it.
And she's been in there. We find out that Yuna's been in there for a couple days, and Tidus is like, "This is bullshit. I'm going in." Tidus does not care about your traditions or what your culture is. He's like, "I'm doing what I do."
At this point in his head, though, he's got to be thinking, he's like, all right, it's 1,000 years later. I'm from the Holy Land. Am I Jesus? Am I God? He doesn't know.
This is what Oren said. This is my story.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're gonna be like, "Sir, you can't go in here." I'd be like, "Maybe in your story that's the case, but
Oh, my dad is Jacked, and I'm a star player, so yeah, I'm gonna go in. This is a weird Final Fantasy in that we meet all of our party members very early.
Yeah. Compared to most Final Fantasies where they're staggered all the way throughout it. Like, you got the whole party by the time you leave Besaid. I guess Riku comes later, but you already met her.
It's pretty sick. Yeah, we meet Lulu and Kamari. Muttski, can you tell us about Lulu and Kamari?
yeah, sure." So you've got these two individuals who, really like the whole group is a series of like, I don't know, compadres that act as a guardian force to defend a summoner on their pilgrimage to visit all of the temples. And Lulu, Kamari, Wakka, and later Oren and Tidus are all what comprise the Guardian group for Yuna, the summoner that Tidus has barged in to interrupt the prayers of. Lulu, one of the most captivating components of Lulu's story, which comes and goes very quickly, is that you find out that she was essentially in a romantic relationship with Wakka's brother, who sadly passed away fighting Sin. And they bring that up very early after you meet Lulu, and then they kind of don't really do a whole lot with it ever again.
Don't bring it back up.
To me, like, I think Lulu has, like, she's a really good, like, lore dumper. Like, she's the one that always, like, says, like, kind of condescendingly to Tidus, like, oh, you're an idiot. This is what's going on, and kind of explains to us what's going on in a way. And so she's a really important rule, but I wish that, like, they had, like, done more with reckoning with everything that had happened to her before the events of the game, sort of.
Yeah.
And then Kamari's kind of like this same say not much at all type of character who has been not, like, I guess, like, ostracized, or like he's like a social pariah from his tribe for being really, really small and not a particularly, like, he's not seen as, like, as strong of a warrior because of his minute stature relative to his species. And he lost half of his horn, so he's a hornless Ronso, and so they don't really respect him. And so we have these people there, and they're just kind of hanging out, waiting for Yuna to finish, and their job is strictly to guide them on their pilgrimage and make sure that she gets to everywhere that she needs to go safely to do the final summoning after getting all of the Aeons along the way.
Yes, sadly, a lot of their character design seems to be their character.
Yeah, for both of them, that's fair.
Yeah.
I do. You're right though. Like, Lulu will just turn around and be like, "Tidus, shut the fuck up. We are in a temple, and this is what's happening." And I'm like, "Yes, Mom."
I'm so sorry.
I am so sorry. And Kamari was just giving me, like, Blythe vibes. Like, for some reason, Yuna was given a Ronso as a young girl, just like Blythe in Elden Ring. It's like, this is your protector now, and she just always has Blythe. Just like, imagine trying to go on a date with Yuna and Kamari's there. Although later on, when Tidus is going to Yuna at Lake Makalania, when everyone's like, you should go in there, Kamari's like, I will watch.
Yeah, he's just, like, standing there.
I will watch.
That's definitely a thing that happens.
Tidus has broken all the rules, and we also get to meet Yuna. Spike, will you tell us a little bit about Yuna?
Oh God, I would have to read up again. I got a lot of things are a little hazy.
You're a classic speedrunner. You're like, I'm going to play the game.
I think the real important ones that, like, are at this stage are, like, that her father is Braska, and so, like, it's like being, like, Barack Obama's daughter. It's like she's like the Sasha Obama of Spira. Like, the expectation for her is that, like, this kid is going to do something with her life, sort of deal. And so, like, they kind of are like, yeah, you should do the same thing.
Yeah, Yuna's got a lot of familiar pressure. Her father stops in, and that's kind of what she's got going on. She also, Tidus doesn't know it, but she knows she's going on a mission to die, which is kind of a lot of her narrative struggle. She has a little bit of the Frodo Baggins thing too, where everybody stops and goes at her behest.
Don't they say really early on in the game that she's gonna die when she fights Sen?
It's not that specifically that she's going to die is not revealed until, like, pretty late. When she does, like, her first sending, and Tidus is like, what's the end? And everybody around just, like, shuts the fuck up, and they look at him and they're like, bro, like, you don't fucking talk about that, because, like, everybody else knows. And so then Lulu, like, answers it with kind of a non sequitur. She doesn't say that Yuna's going to die, but she says, when Yuna summons the final Aeon, and then she just, like, walks off. So they kind of tease that the end is kind of a taboo that you don't talk about, but they don't actually specifically say why until, like, Riku is the one that tells Tidus, because, like, Tidus is like, we need to do this, and then Riku's like, he's like, why don't you want to do this? And Riku's like, because she's gonna fucking die. And then, like, at that moment, like, it kind of hits, and Tidus is like, oh fuck, I'm the idiot here.
Tidus is like, we're gonna get you killed. This is gonna be the best trip ever.
Because that's the thing, like, right? Like, his mentality is like, Yuna, I will do whatever I can to get you to where you want to go, and I will be the one that escorts you there. And then whenever reality sets in, that he's like, what I am doing is actually entirely counterintuitive to what I really want, because I didn't know that what I was doing, the outcome of that is, not ideal for my scenario, especially after he has clearly caught feelings for this girl. And so, yeah, I think that's like one of probably the biggest moments like later. But yeah, they kind of tease it in the early stages, but they don't explicitly say, but bluntly, like, she is going to lose her life. The writing is on the wall. Like, if you're keen on it, like, you can kind of figure out, like, Braska has done it and he's no longer there. Like, you can kind of, if you are, actually thinking about who's still around and who has done the final summoning, like, you can kind of figure it out. But I think a lot of people don't realize until Riku like drops the truth bomb.
And it's like, it's interesting, like, when the first time we see Yuna in the story, her just like, what, you don't really think about it. She walks out of the summoning and it looks like she's got this air of her, like, she just came out from a night of heavy drinking in Vegas. Like, it's hitting her.
She's hungover.
It's hitting her very hard right now. And like, in retrospect, looking back, like, oh, she's dying due to this. This is like, pulling on her life energy effectively, that like, this is the journey you're going down with her. And being in that same, for the viewers, the players of the game, having to go through the same lens as Tidus, for thinking you're just being her protector and not really knowing like how it's going to be revealed to you later. This is not a happy ending kind of story you're going on a journey with her for.
It's crazy. She's going in there and like praying for her death. Like, give me the power to die to save people. So she's on this crazy journey. And it's also super disrespectful, in my opinion, that all of the party doesn't tell Tidus what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, why not just pull him aside and be like, hey, so you're really gung-ho about her dying, and it's awkward, but don't do it anymore.
Well, it's like,
anything.
Would that have been like a fun character moment of like just something like, man, I'm going to be the one, this connection between Tidus and some other character. I'm a level with you, dog.
Yeah.
This is like,
you're not going to hit
I feel like this is like actually pretty common in the games too. Like, there's like a lot of times where like there is a party member that it knows like a critical thing that is just like afraid to say it because of whatever reason. Like, like the whole notion of FF7 is that like the whole time Cloud like talks about how he has this memory of like what he did in Nibelheim, and Tifa's like, I don't fucking think that that's how it went down, right? And she doesn't like say that until like 80% of the game is over, because she doesn't fully remember either. And here I feel like, I don't know, they just, it's something about the taboo nature that they've been ingrained that you just don't talk about the end. So then like, it is kind of strange that they don't just pull him aside and say, hey buddy, like, listen, I get the sins toxin thing, like, but be careful about this.
Yeah, one of the first things they say to him is like, yeah, your whole origin story, don't say that. It's weird. You're gonna sketch people out.
Yeah, like they fucking tell him that. Like,
right then, you should have just got out in front of it and been like, so just once they realize like, yo, he's real gung ho on this lady dying, we should maybe let him know that, like, that's not very cool. He's gonna offend more people.
Imagine not being told like some horrible thing, and you just walk into a social scenario and you're just talking about it the whole time. Just give him a nudge. It's just so weird. The only other character that doesn't know about it is Hisaru's little tiny brother, and Tidus is on the same level as like this 10-year-old who's like doesn't know his bro's gonna die. The whole thing is just weird. I do like that there's a campfire party and Tidus is trying to talk to Yuna, and there's this old lady. She's like,
she's
don't
great.
talk to the summoner.
And then someone else is like, the kid's like, you're a bad man. It's great. That's some of the best dialogue in the entire game. The Sade people, they fucking rule, right? Like,
we don't know who you are, Mr. Blitzball guy from God knows where.
He showed up looking like a plumber. It was weird as fuck.
We're going to the Blitzball tournament is where we're heading to next. And we get on a ship. Sin quickly attacks. We find out later that Sin is drawn to Tidus. He sees an entire village get destroyed. So we get we feel the power of Sin pretty quick. And then, yes, this is where Tidus gets his great tattoo idea. People die and Yuna dances. Every time he says a line, too, I feel like he's shrugging a little bit, like, and she dances.
I will say that that FMV was like the moment when I played this the first time where I was like, this is the fucking greatest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, I just think the color palette with the sunset, there's obviously a lot of emotions for what is going on for all of the like crying patrons that are around. And then you just see her do this dance, and then she rises up in the water, and Tidus is. I feel like my jaw drop is the same as Tidus watching it happen. Like, I just felt like it's like obviously it ended up becoming like the moment that they chose to use as the logo for the game, and like there's just everything about it. Even today when I watch it, I'm like, dude, this looks so good. Yep. While Final Fantasy X is not like my favorite Final Fantasy game, that might be my favorite Final Fantasy FMV of all time.
Yeah. And again, this was like year one of the PS2 that they got that much graphical fidelity out of it. Holy shit.
I just think that it's really difficult to make like a scene with the emotional stakes as high as that scene does as early into the narrative as they do it. Yes. I feel like there's no dialogue. Like, it's all just purely visual, but it conveys so much of what the entire game is going to dive into that I just think that it's just one of the best FMVs that they have ever made.
Yeah.
It's stuff hits the fan so fast in this because like if you play Final Fantasies love big, entire civilizations getting nuked in the course of a few seconds. You play any Final Fantasy, that's going to be a big theme. The fact that it does it so early in this one, there's so much raw emotion behind it. It's so good.
I think it also just kind of like introduces like later on, like earlier we were talking, or it might have been in the last episode that we were talking about like kind of how like the calm is only 10 years and it seems like kind of like an ephemeral time period of lacking of any of the semblance of Sin's violence on mankind. But then when you actually witness firsthand the scenes in which Sin is attacking mankind and it's really fucking bad, like then you're like, maybe this 10-year window is kind of not the worst option because the time in which Sin is present is like really heavy-handed towards like innocent families that are just living their life, right? So it's kind of an interesting in a lot of ways, but I do really like that whole segment.
Yeah, Sin can destroy so many. I mean, that's just one attack, and an entire village is destroyed. So over the course of 10 years, it does mean a lot. And I'm sitting there when everyone's like, we're going to find another way. I'm like, I don't know, man. 10 years is good. Maybe this is...
Maybe that's just how it shakes out.
I do love, like you mentioned, Muttski, it became the logo. It's like a beautiful send-off to death, and death is a core theme of this. And... yeah, it's beautiful. Do they have like a local fire squad? Like they have local summoners? Like what if there's no summoner there?
I think that place is just ravaged by fiends until you get one out there. Or
thank God you're here.
Yeah,
I guess because they do build all of the towns around, predominantly around the temples, and it's clear. It's made clear when you go into each of them that like. It's not like there's only one summoner doing the pilgrimage at any time. We encounter like 3 different people that are doing the same thing. So I guess maybe they're just like hoping that someone will be at that stage of the pilgrimage, I guess. I don't know. That's a good question. I imagine that there would be times where there'd be fucking nobody there. So
yeah. We go through Kilika. A kid says he wants to grow up and become a Blitzball.
Classic.
Which is actually not a...
what a great line.
It's not a translation error either. Like, I think that's just...
No,
yeah.
that's...
it's just what a kid wants to grow up. And more power to you.
I'm just glad they didn't change it for the HD version. Like, they just kept it the same. Makes me happy.
That's you need the charm.
That's the stormtrooper bopping his head on. They were like, "Oh, pump a sound into that." Yeah.
Well, and then they go back and they have Jango Fett bump his head in Attack of the Clones, so it's like a genetic deficiency. So that's Lucas is like, "Oh, we'll fix it in prequels."
The canon there.
Yeah, more temples. We go to Kilika Temple. Tidus knows not to go in this temple, but we run into a lady who doesn't wear clothing and her boyfriend, who was just this muscle-bound dude who's got the worst haircut in the game.
But maybe the best name in the game.
What's his name?
Othello. That's a badass name.
I love when he meets Auron later, and he's like, oh, Auron.
Yeah, he's like Auron's. He's like fanboying over Auron. That's the thing. Yeah.
They throw him into the cloister. Man, I don't like cloisters of trials.
They're just such a speed bump. Like, I'm into the narrative of the game. I'm into the random encounters and the walking around talking to people. I love the combat system. I love the game. And then I'm in a cloister and I'm like, I want to die. This is the worst.
I've never heard anybody say a nice thing about a cloister of trials. I see the concept, but Final Fantasies aren't puzzle games. I don't want a puzzle right now.
And it's like, I feel like the one part of the game that did not age well. Like, it is precise movement with a somewhat clunky control. So, like, if you're trying to move the pillar or trying to figure out where things go, I didn't think I could push the pillar a certain way because it just didn't seem like there was another room or space that way. And it's a speed bump. It's a buzzkill. It makes me angry.
There was definitely like a late 90s, early 2000s, like, I think, development concept, I guess, in video games of like, all right, we can't just give them the main thing. Mario can't just jump on things. We got to do other stuff. Like Crash Bandicoot turned from just the guy who ran and jump on things and ate Wumpa fruit, whatever the hell those were, to also he's got to ride motorcycles. He's got to ride a plane, all this stuff. And so Final Fantasy 7 through 10, Square in general, so it's not just combat the entire time. The core gameplay mechanics also have like mini games and stuff. And there's a wide fucking range to how fun or interesting those are. Then you'll get stuff like Blitzball and the card tournaments and whatnot that the more you delve into them, they're super, super fun. And then you've got, freaking these trials that, like I said, there was definitely one of them that I spent a solid hour on. You had to like electrocute something on the wall. It was awful. It was awful.
We're going to take a quick break here from another amazing show from the Tokyo Beat Podcast Network, and we'll be right back.
I've got kind of a Final Fantasy hot take that I've gotten a lot of flack for because most of the people that watch my stream are in fact Final Fantasy fanatics. And it is almost all Final Fantasy minigames are bad. Like I just don't think just don't think they're actually good. Like when I was a kid, I remember playing some and being like, oh, this is sweet. Like when I was a kid, I thought like Chocobo Hot and Cold was fun. I thought like the FF8 card game was great. But like now, like I'm playing them, I'm like, these are kind of boring. Like I don't really love these.
I will accept every one of those mini games except Triple Triad FF8. That's the only one that I would go to bat for.
I do think the card games are like a solid tier above many of the other things. Like the Hedgehog Pie red light green light game in 9 is kind of bad. The dolphin jump you over an electric generator in 7 is kind of bad. The parade minigame in 7 is bad. Like they're just mostly not great. But like it does, I don't mind the ones in 7, 8, and 9 so much because they're usually really short and one time. Yeah. But the Cloister, they were like, we're going to do this several times. They're going to become progressively more nuanced in how you have to figure out how to solve them. And like many of you have already said, and I don't want to say it ad nauseum, but they kind of do just kill the pace of what's happening in this story a little bit.
So there's this thing that's tied with the cloisters. You can't get anima unless you get all of the destruction spheres. And I was going to just not use a guide at all for this playthrough. I'm like, I know where the items are. Like, I'll figure it out. And I missed the destruction sphere thing in the first temple in Besaid. And to go back there later on, you have to fight a Dark Aeon.
Yeah. Yes, you do.
And so at that point, I'm like, I'm not putting that time in. So I went to Yojimbo and I'm like, I got $30. But I'm going to feed it to you little bits over multiple battles, and I'm going to build up our relationship. We'll get to the Yojimbo relationship meter game, which is like a hidden one. But yeah, this has the weakest mini games, I'd say, of any Final Fantasy. Dodge 200 lightning bolts, butterflies, and Macalania. they call them mini games, and it's very generous for them to try and call that a game.
I did not struggle with the lightning bolts in this playthrough. I don't think I actually fucked it up a single time. But the fucking butterfly shit, never want to do it again.
Butterflies come off as like it's not going to be that bad, and then one spawns in your dick, and you're just pissed off, dude. It sucks.
Yeah, I had never done many of them in any of the casual playthroughs I've done before. So I never did the butterflies before. I never did the lightning bolt dodging before. I never did the chocobo mini games. I got the 0.0 second chocobo thing way more quickly than the fucking butterflies. The butterflies took me like 2 hours. I was so bad at it.
Yeah. The butterflies, it's badly made. It's badly made. A lot of Square RPGs got by on like the core game and the story are good, and you gotta power through the mini games. But like you say, there's a lot of these trials. There's like 6 of them or whatever in the game.
So we get Ifrit. We get onto another boat, and Yuna and Tidus have a moment where they're bonding. There's a very important thing here. If you want to win in Blitzball, you have to get the Jack shot. Did you do this, Tyler?
I don't think so, but I still won the Blitzball game.
Without the Jack shot?
He has a power shot.
Sphere shot, right?
Sphere shot, yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's what I used to score.
It could get you by, yeah.
But this is before you lent me the strategy guide, and I was like, I'm just trying to cruise through it this time. Like, I've played the beginning of the game 3 or 4 times over the course of a long period of time, but I wanted to get to shit that I hadn't seen or done before. So at this point, I was still like in cruise control.
How thick is that strategy guide, by the way? I love strategy guides.
This strategy guide is amazing too.
Oh yeah, look at it. Oh God. As a kid, I loved leafing through strategy guides even if I didn't have the game.
I love that they have all of the free agents for Blitzball. All of their stats, all the way up through level 99. Like your original goalie, Keepa, he becomes like one of the best Blitzball players only up at like level 99. You have to you gotta work with him. It's like a montage for the first 90 levels before he learns, I get it now.
This is what
finally.
What do you have to do to get the Jack shot? There's a Blitzball by the kid, right?
He's having flashbacks of his dad saying, "You're gonna cry. Oh, you're never gonna be good enough." And you essentially have to just like move your thumbsticks towards like where the messages pop up. It's a little obtuse, and I've definitely missed it before from not understanding.
I did not do that.
It's if you know what you're doing, it's incredibly easy to do. But if you don't get it, you can't get it. Like that's your one shot, one opportunity.
It's gone forever.
You know? Like,
sorry, you're not going to overcome some of your father problems this
I
time.
will say, I do think that although Tidus is not like super overpowered player of Blitzball, which is nice, like he's actually like I said, he's kind of mediocre in the early stages. The Jack shot, when you can do it, it is like so unreasonably unfair. Like, because you'll have, if you can have 2 defenders defending you, and if you do the Jack shot, you basically get 0 defenders defending you plus a really overpowered shot. Because it's basically like you can have pass interference against every defensive back as you're throwing a deep ball and knock both of the DBs out, and now you just have the guy like because you smash them in the face with the ball, so they're out of the play. It's kind of ridiculous when you watch it happen. Like, I think the reason that nobody can do it isn't because Jekt was that good, but because it would be actually fucking impossible for someone to do it.
It's so beautiful. Yeah, it lets you skip 2 defenders before the ball goes past them.
Yeah, in the outline, it says Jack shot challenge. You want this? And I was like, I don't have that.
Lucca is one of the bigger cities we're going to run into. We arrive at Lucca. The Pope is here. One of the Popes, Grand Maester Micah. And this is our first time seeing Sephiroth in this game.
Yeah.
Tyler, tell us about Seymour.
He's a half Guado. Did I say that right? Guado. He's a half Guado guy.
That sounds right.
Who killed his father, but we don't know that yet. He's very obviously the villain, like we talked about in the last game, like everything down to his character design.
He shops at Villains Are Us.
Yeah, he just looks like a guy that's like Bad News Bears. But he definitely has an interest in Yuna immediately.
Yeah, he sees her fame as something that would help him out tremendously. He is going for power, and he has like a pretty weird goal in the end. But this is our first time seeing Seymour. Yuna gets kidnapped by the Albed. Now, the Albed could be a little more honest, I think, and say we're trying to save summoners' lives instead of we won't give her back unless you forfeit a Blitzball match. They're playing their hand very poorly.
Yeah. I mean, you could ask for a lot more.
I mean, or you could just be honest, like, summoning's bad.
I'll tell you what, you trade us Keepa.
Yeah, just give us that goalie of yours and we'll give her back.
Also, very convenient name for that man.
I guess he's going to be a goalie.
You know what? I like to think that his name is like Phil or something, and Wakka's just like, oh no, he's the keeper, and then he just kept it like that.
Well, that's what they wrote down.
And he keeps insisting on calling him Phil, but he's like, no, you keeper.
It's not my fucking name, dude.
My name is Phil.
I'm the 30th Phil in my family, and Wakka's like, can't have that. You keep it now.
You're a goalie, right? We fight a blitzball throwing machine on a boat.
Yep, fun stuff.
The obliterator.
Yeah, the like crane or whatever, boss. Yeah.
It's one of those fights where it's like actually really, really difficult to win, but then the game's like, hey, there's this really convenient crane that we'll let you interact with. Just shoot it with some lightning bolts to give it some power first. Yeah. And then it becomes completely winnable, like fairly easily.
And that was a mechanic of the game that I thought I was going to have to look for a lot more.
Yeah.
Like I thought I'd be able to like interact with the environment a lot more and just more battles. But it's something that when it is prevalent, it is telegraphed and you will know.
Yeah. It's not like a moment of like, as a gamer, like, oh, aha, I noticed that thing in the background. I know.
No, it's a giant trigger warning.
There's arrows everywhere. Go here.
Trigger command.
Right.
I mean, the boss battles, though, I think are all pretty fun.
Yes.
I would go to bat for a lot of them. There's usually like a gimmick or something that's engaging or different about all of them.
Some of them are kind of difficult, too. I did have trouble with a few of them.
Yeah, I like it when there's a difficulty spike. Too many RPGs, I feel like, turn into layups, but I don't know. Has there been any essential speedrun tech up to like this point of the game?
At this point, so far, really, we just use like we haven't really been able to do much with sphere gridding because we don't really fight any of the random encounters, with the exception of a few points when you're trying to get some specific drops. Because some enemies in Kilika drop a lot of speed spheres, and those are really hard to come by in like the middle stages of the game. So we will kind of do some fights on the way there to get those in order to get our agility for specific characters up. But to this point, like we use Dark Attack with Wakka, hit darkness on a lot of bosses, which makes it really difficult for them to hit our characters. The cheer ability we'll use to raise our party's physical attack and defense. But really, other than that, that's kind of like the main things that have happened in the fight so far. The one thing that I'll say that we have used at this point in the run that I don't think anyone mentioned, in Besaid, if you go back into the village before you leave, you can actually get the item that gives Valifor his second tier attack, which is considerably stronger than the first. Like, it's always there, but the game doesn't really hint that you can go back into the town and go get it. And so we'll go back, grab that, and it is like an AoE, and we'll use that on both the Sin Fin fight and then again on the Sin Spawn Gano, which is like the plant carapace one outside of the Kilika temple. So I guess that's like the one kind of obscure thing, is that we have at this point acquired Valifor's level 2 overdrive.
Yeah, a lot of times what happens with an RPG speedrun is like you're building towards what is that overpowered thing that's going to allow us to like get through the last chunk of the game, right? And like, so right now you're almost in the gathering phase of putting like, okay, we're getting our agility up. You know, we're putting a few things together for some of our Aeons, but yeah, you haven't really like busted Because the sphere grid is built for busting open, right?
I would say the average casual player is probably hitting for considerably more damage with some of the characters than we are in the speedrun. Like when we fight the Sin Fin and we throw the Blitzball, Wakka is hitting him with like his flat starting strength stats. So like, and same with Kamari using Lancet, like it's hitting very, very low. It's really just the Valifor upgrade that's kind of a little bit stronger than what you're expected to be at, I suppose.
I didn't realize on my original playthroughs that the summons have a lot of like unique attack effects. Like that Valifor has essentially like a delay attack or a quick attack.
Yeah.
And
they each have like kind of like a unique ability that's kind of like an attack plus the ability, which is kind of cool that they gave them all something that's kind of unique to them.
Yeah.
They're not just you summon them, they do their damage, and then they get off the field. I thought the implementation of summons were a lot more interesting.
Because if it was just that they had a physical attack and can cast the black magic of the type that they are, like, it's basically just like a glorified black mage, at that point. And so I think they wanted to give it at least something other than just attack, black magic, and overdrive from the start, so that you at least have an option.
Yeah.
And one of them, is it Bahamut that has break damage limit by default?
Yeah. He is in fact the buddy that can do that. That is a thing.
And also Bahamut is our little buddy. We didn't mention the little kid that keeps coming up to Tidus.
Yeah.
That is Bahamut as well.
Yeah, don't cry.
Don't cry.
I'm not saying I did. Did anybody pick up on that little? You're like, oh, what's that like thing on his back? Oh, Bahamut's got. Oh, what?
I wish I was smart enough to.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if anybody wants to lie and said they picked up on that before it was told to you.
I do like that when Seymour sees Orin, he just like, you smell funny.
Smells him.
We can smell your tap. And what he means is that Orin's unsent. The Guado can smell unsent, which is just weird to me, but
yeah.
I imagine it's because the far plane is attached to Guado Salam, so maybe because they're just around. Well, no, because like that's not actually them. So yeah, I don't know.
we play Blitzball, which is a game.
Super underwhelming.
Super underwhelming.
There will not be a Blitzball 2K24. Like, it's not going to be a franchise.
It's not a yearly release.
Although I would, if they put out like an updated one, I might try it.
It is a little perfunctory. You don't have to win this game. It is, I guess, vital to win it if you want to get a strength sphere. I'd like to reload my save regardless because I want Wakka to have his moment in the sun. Yeah. You gotta make it happen. I like that they pretty much boo Tidus off of the field by cheering for Wakka. No one even wants Tidus on the field. Wakka comes back and they win the game or they lose the game. But I was expecting heavy metal music and jumping out of a giant ball of water and a lot of tackles, but it's mostly just math.
Severely disappointed.
All right. This was the one. Okay, so we were talking earlier about how, like, I think this game does a really, really, really good job with its tutorial system. It explains everything to you.
I knew exactly what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, super, super well. It's like, I barely even remember there being a tutorial. I'm going to break this down for you. I think actually Blitzball is conceptually pretty cool, but maybe it's because I have a math brain. They're like, we're in the locker room. Let me explain to you all of the different things that you will need to know to succeed at Blitzball. And then they proceed to have you run off and do 45 minutes of other gaming and shit after explaining this fucking encyclopedia of shit of like how Blitzball works. And then you come back after this 45-minute lunch break of fighting bosses and shit. And they're like, all right, now you got to do Blitzball. There's no re-upping on how any of this works. You just do it. If you're not sitting there and meticulously writing down all of it and then seeing how it plays out in front of you, you have no shot. I think this game is so brilliantly made, but that is a horribly designed section. Oh my God. Like,
I think that they just bit off more than they could chew in that not only did they have to explain to the player how the mechanics of the game as they have programmed it work, it's also a sport that the player does not know the basic rules to. I think that everyone conceptually can understand that it's like a water polo-esque game where you have to throw a ball into the goal. Like, I think everyone can understand that. But like, actually, like how like the defense and like the passing and the tackling all works. Like, I feel like there's a lot of like, you need to understand how the game is played in the universe of the game in order to actually play it correctly. And so I think that it was just like a tall order, and I think they were just like, fuck it, I guess this is the only way we're gonna be able to do it. And so they were just like, here's a 12-chapter step-by-step tutorial. We'll see you guys in an hour for this game that starts in 4 minutes. Like,
Good luck.
it's like you say, there's a lot of mini games at this era for Square where you're like, all right, this shit sucks. But I only gotta jump this dolphin over this crane like 6 times, and then I never have to worry about it again. This is like, even if you're only gonna play it this one time, and I just am gonna let myself lose, it's a painful process. I think, because I did the same thing. I reloaded after I lost once and then went for the win again. And I was like, now that I saw it in action, I get it well enough to be able to play it. And it's, I guess, that they made that decision instead of making you go through this 10-minute tutorial of like watching how it all plays out, or play someone easier. Because that's the other thing. The one team you have to play against, they're pretty good.
I mean,
yeah.
They didn't dumb them down for like the one time. No, this is probably one of the better teams you're going to fight.
I'm convinced that people that love Blitzball, at least in my Twitch chat that watched my playthrough, I'm convinced that they never won stuff in their life, because they would all be like, go recruit this person, they're so busted. I'm like, dude, you guys just like make like the Golden State Warriors and try to win every game by 10. Like, is that fun? Like, do you guys enjoy that? Like, dude, I feel like that would just make Blitzball so boring if you just won every game by like 6+ goals.
Destroyed.
30-0, another good game.
I recruited only one person the whole playthrough, and that's just because Bada is a complete defensive liability. he was not making the cut.
Bada, sit down. We gotta talk.
I think it's him that, like, in the locker room when they bring Tidus in, I think he's the one that's like, am I on the bench? And everyone's just like...
I remember back in the day, the only one that I was obsessed with getting was Nimruk, because he was the best early goalie. And he's for the all-bet Sykes, and you have to wait for that to happen. But also, if you don't go play Blitzball after this, it doesn't move. Blitzball's done unless Tidus shows up, because otherwise teams move forward and then free agents happen. Sometimes the Ronso team doesn't have a lot of Ronsos on it eventually. It's just weird how those rules get written. But yeah, Blitzball, eventually you can just like keep playing it if you want. It's like a distraction, but if we're getting we're going on a life-ending, world-saving mission,
I'm probably not concerned with Blitzball at that point.
I'm going to spend an hour playing Blitzball. Can you guys just wait a second?
It's tough because, like, FF10 it's funny. I always heard FF13 is the joke of, like, it's the hallway simulator. And going to play FF10, which, by the way, I'm totally fine with super linear games. FF10, like, it funnels you down the path, like, so quickly. It's hard to convince yourself to be like, yeah, more Blitzball or whatever distractions. Or I am going to go back into Besaid and, get that AoE for Valifor and stuff, right?
The only real reason to keep playing Blitzball, if you're not into the gameplay, you'll need to if you want to get some of Wakka's overdrives, some of Wakka's, best weapon stuff. I mean, otherwise, you have one strategy. Essentially, you have one player that's going to be doing most of the shooting. You want to get them the ball in an advantageous position and just jack shot the shit out of it. I mean, that's kind of what you're up to.
Yeah.
But Seymour has summoned fiends to the arena so he can save the day and manipulate everyone to think like, wow, that guy who looks super evil, not that bad.
Yeah.
Also, Aaron just shows up and is the most badass guy in town immediately.
Yeah.
Yep. Once he takes his arm out of his coat, it's just like he means business.
Yeah, he is so strong, he just like, I only use one hand unless I need it. Fucking love Aaron. famous laughing scene happens now, right?
Right before that, I guess like Orin does pull Tidus aside, and this is when he like tells him all of like the shit about his dad and stuff. And Tidus is like kind of reluctant to listen to him about any of it, and he's like obviously upset because he's like, I want to fucking go home, right? Like, you're here. How did you get here? You were where I was when I started the game. Like, so Tidus is kind of like being a bit moody at this point, and that's what prompts, I guess, the conversation with Yuna with the laughing scene, which is obviously an iconic moment of the game.
Now, I was curious. So this scene, you know, it has become a famous meme moment, but James Arnold Taylor, the voice actor for Tidus, has a great YouTube channel, talks about voice acting, super great.
Oh.
And he was just following direction. And if you go to the Japanese audio, it's the same. It's just like this. It's not like the American version, the English version, took liberties and made it more cringy.
そこまでやらなくても。
That's just the tone and the direction for the scene. It's, I think, misguided.
It was confusing.
Yeah. You're sitting there, and it's this moment where two characters you love and you want them to like each other. They're on like one of their first dates, and it's just awkward flirting is what it is.
Yeah, I was like, I literally just found out my dad is Sen. And it just tonally doesn't really match up.
Yeah. Just laugh.
Just laugh. He'll have it tattooed across his stomach.
Yeah. This is when they do the whistle thing, I believe, as well, where he teaches her how to whistle.
Yeah, she can finally do the whistle.
Yep. And that's how she's at the end of the game, she's whistling, trying to get Tidus to come back. Turns out he was in a mobile game. Couldn't hear you. He was off there in someone's cellular telephone. But we are officially a part of the crew. Arn's a part of the crew. We're a full set of Guardians here. And we go to the Mi'ihen High Road, and we meet my favorite character, Dan Carlin.
Yes.
Machen, yeah.
This dude, my first playthrough, I was like, I don't have time for you, old man. And now I'm like, oh, that's it? Is there no more? Old badass scholar. Dude just travels around. Fun fact, he's an unsent. Centuries old. This guy has been traveling around Spira undead not because he's upset, not because he's angry. He's so motivated to just fucking talk history.
I didn't know he was unsent because I thought it was pretty badass that he's that old. So I was like trying to figure out like how many calms has he lived through? How many times has Sen popped up?
All of them. He was actually there back like thousands of years ago.
Well, that's even wilder because I thought he was a mortal dude that was just like 90 years old. I was like, wow, that's like 9 times. That's pretty.
Well,
rough.
no. There's been like 4 calms. Calms are very rare. I skipped over the fucking 10 pages of outlines of prequel shit that didn't matter. But yeah, there's been like 4 calms. One of them was a Blitzball player. There was one lady summoner who succeeded before, but there's only been like 4. So it's been like 40 years in the past 2,000 years.
I'm going to have to look at the BG timeline.
Yeah, it's
because now I have questions.
My timeline's
very little relief. Very little relief.
We learn a little bit about overdrives. We learn about summon fights. This is our first time we have a Pokemon battle with Belgamine.
Yeah.
You can't summon Pikachu if I'm using Pikachu. You have to use something else. That's the rules.
Dems is the rules.
But I like this boss battle. I like the Chocobo Eater quite a bit. This is a pretty cool gimmick.
I like this boss. The one that pushes you off the cliff if you don't attack right?
Correct.
If you knock him on his back, he loses armor status. So that's when you start opening up on physical attacks. But he also responds from his back with some like magic. Your goal though is to knock him off before you get knocked off. And this is your last chance to fund Wakka's business, the 23rd Wakka, if you want. Not that important. There's like system where the more you fund him, the cheaper the items will be later on.
That's just called an investment.
Yeah, but it's not really worth it in the end. I would invest if it was good business, but this guy can't even buy a shirt that fits. I mean,
That's true.
I don't trust him.
Shops at Baby Gap.
And we're going to get to what'll be our last section on this episode, unfortunately. There's just too much good stuff. But the Mushroom Rock Road, we're going to learn about Operation Mi'ihen. This is... it's going to save the day and defeat sin once and for all. It's a foolproof plan. There's no way it'll fail. They're going to use machines to defeat sin.
Yeah, they say we're embracing the blasphemy.
Yo, Maester Seymour, this is against our religion, yeah? And Seymour, fucking cold-hearted, is like, then don't look at it.
Yeah.
I forget what he says.
I do think that that's like an important moment aside from just making it clear that Seymour's a douchebag. Like, I think that it's like the moment where it's like, these people need to be told like the obvious. Like, of course this shit isn't inherently evil, you fucking morons. Like, the people that are using it are the problem, right? Like, and so I do think that it's kind of like, yeah, just pretend like you didn't see it. And Wakka's just like, I think he literally says something like, I can't believe I'm hearing the words that are coming out of your mouth. And then he's like,
Yeah.
then pretend you didn't hear them. Like, I feel like Wakka, as someone that is like the blind follower of all blind followers, this is like the moment where like I think he just like gets put into his place of his just like obvious ignorance to everything about Yevon and his upbringing.
He's willing to pull the curtain back, or like to cover up his eyes a little bit longer, though. He's like, oh, okay, well, I still love religion and the Pope. That's weird. Whatever. That'll be fine. If Seymour didn't have different motives, I'd be there for it. Because like the way he says, it doesn't matter, just don't look, like we're going to use these machines. If Seymour thought it would succeed, I would put that as a positive point for Seymour. He knows it's going to fail. And this is just like an opportunity for them to get rid of non-believers as well, which is like a super sketchy part of Yevon's involvement in this. I do love, man, just Seymour's line, like, then pretend you didn't see it, just cold-blooded.
I think that it's like a really important, like as far as like the message of what some of what this story is getting at with the idea of people using the like curtain of religious ideology to commit heinous crimes against humanity, and the followers of said religion being willing to go pretty far with them, even if like their moral understanding of things makes it clear that they shouldn't be okay with those things. I think that like Wakka is for sure like a vessel for making that point, that he, like you said, like afterward, he's like, well, I guess the Pope said it. So, you know, like maybe this shit is not, maybe it is okay. You know, like I do think that it's for sure trying to get you to consider like the implication that that's making about like real world conflict.
I love, I mean, as far as character transformations, there's just Wakka pretty much in this game. Everybody else is kind of like a start to finish. Lulu remains Lulu. Auron remains Auron. I mean, Yuna and Tidus have their thing, but Wakka's got the character transformation of the story.
Yeah.
Battling some real demons. He's like, yo, you shouldn't be using guns or something, right? And they're like, our fucking religion, we have rifles, every single one of us. We say elevators are illegal. We have them in our home. We have elevators inside of our house.
I just want to know if the whole time they're watching all of these people with like guns, like if Yuna in the back of her mind's like, I want to get a pair of Glocks for the sequel so bad.
So is there a gun shop around here? Just curious, just asking.
I want to know where she gets them from. Yeah. The black market.
And she sees all these people walking around in thongs and she's like, where do you buy these things? I'm wearing way too much clothing right now. What a tonal shift that next game is. But the All Bad are teaming up with the Crusaders. The Crusaders are like Yevon's holy warrior branch. And they're going to team up and fight Sin here. It goes absolutely horribly. We have our first major boss fight with the Sin Spawn Gooey.
Gooey, yeah.
That sounds right, yeah.
This is probably one of the tougher boss battles thus far, I'd say.
It can be tricky for sure.
You guys kind of alluded to it. Like, a lot of Final Fantasy games, casually, I feel like, are a little bit of a layup, like boss fight to boss fight. And I didn't know until after I played this game, or I guess as I was playing it, FF10's kind of hard.
Yeah.
There's some tricky fights.
Unlike, and not just like, there's the post game, the Aeons and everything. Like, they're like main story bosses.
Yeah.
That was like, I'm a wall your ass. All right.
Some of the Seymour fights, the latter Seymour fights are pretty fucking hard.
Unalesca.
That's the Spectral Keeper and that last cloister before Unalesca. That one was a major stopping point for me. This time.
With like the teleportation tiles on it. Yeah, that's a tough one. Because he counters everything. So
and status effects are super important in this game as well. I love what they do with status effects. They actually matter.
Well, it's so fun. Like you said, Spectral Keeper, like it casts Berserk on you and it counters physical attacks. So it'll Berserk you and force you to hit him, and then he'll fucking counter your whole part. Like it's
you can't move to your other tile because Lulu's so angry she's trying to hit Riku.
The mechanics of like how you interact with the environment and some of the things on it, they did a pretty good job of making it a part of the fight that can add some difficulty or critical thinking to how you want to approach it in pretty good way.
Overall, I just think the game, the system is great. I just love the way it keeps evolving and keeps you on your toes a little bit.
Yeah.
Introducing new effects or challenges. I like being defeated by a boss and feeling like I need to rethink this, which doesn't happen often enough in RPGs, in my opinion.
It's too scary for the devs to potentially risk losing the player over it.
I want to be scared. We get to team up with Seymour for the only time in round 2 of this battle as well. And this is where you can see Seymour's overdrive. It's not easy to see, but if you want, let him get hit enough and you can see Seymour's overdrive.
Is it sick nasty? I didn't even know he had one. Goddamn.
The fact that I didn't put anything else down other than you can see it, I think it's probably pretty weak. It's not probably weak animation, but really powerful.
Yeah. One shots everything. Yeah.
Tidus swims after Sin after this. He has a vision and he tells his dad to quit drinking. That's some heavy shit.
Yeah. Doesn't Jack say like tomorrow?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember how that went.
Why do today what you can save for tomorrow?
Dad stopped drinking. He's like, well, I'm a procrastinator at heart, son.
Quit crying. I'm going to redeem myself when I'm a giant Lovecraftian monster.
I swear,
dude.
I'll be there for you.
And when you see me in that form, you'll finally call me dad. I do like that he kind of like has like the fact that he refers to him as my old man the entire game. Kind of like, he's a little estranged from his father, so to speak, in a sense. So I do kind of like the like distance.
I like too that since you can choose to name Tidus or Tidus anything you want, nobody says his name. We have Aaron and Lulu, and here is star player of the Xanderkin Dames.
Yeah. You're forgetting but listen, of all of the games of Final Fantasy where you get to name a character, never has it been as smooth as a moment where you're autographing something because you're an athlete. Like, can you sign my Blitzball?
Yeah.
What do you want? What do you want to sign? Like, it's great.
Ass fart.
Okay, well, we are going to come back and have a part 3 because this game has a bunch of fun things and some not fun things. I would never subject anyone to the plot outline for 10.3, the 2 sequel bullshits. I wrote them down, though. If you guys want to know the mobile game history, I got it. That might be a weird bonus episode where I make Tyler drink with me. But so we're going to call here. We'll be back for a part 3 where we're going to get to Xanderkind and figure out whose story this really is. Thank you so much for you two for joining us once again. Spike, if our listeners wanted to find you, how could they do so?
You can find me on twitch.tv/Spike Vegeta. I like playing video games, including all 718 Super Nintendo games right now. We're like 20 in. It's going to be many years. So I don't care how dated this video is, if you come by, I will still be playing Super Nintendo games.
The year is 2045. I'm playing Illusion of Gaia.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
That's a great game. Mm-hmm. And Muttski, yourself?
You can find me at Twitch also at twitch.tv/Muttski. In the last episode, I mentioned I'm coming up on my 10-year anniversary of speedrunning the Final Fantasy series. A few times I've done a marathon run of Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9 in one sitting, and I haven't done it in a while. I'm probably going to do that. So in probably like a month, January 2024, it's probably going to be going down. So get excited. We're going to get wild.
I'm going to get wild. So 7, 8, and 9, what's the estimate you got for that?
Around 23, 24 hours, something like that.
Oh, it's sub 24 hours for okay.
It should be better now. The last time I did it, the like calm skip for FF7 didn't exist yet, and that's like 20 minutes that you skip the entire calm flashback segment. So it should be a little like about a half hour better. So we'll see.
Fucking love the calm skip. That's great.
Yeah, that part of the game's after you play it once, it's pretty fucking boring. So
And then the worst part is that it doesn't carry over progress. At least if I was feeling progress for my characters. But no, it's like a big nothing burger in the end.
You just watch Sephiroth shit on a dragon and then
Cloud is useless and Sephiroth is God. That's just... The point is, look at Sephiroth. Isn't he beautiful? And I'm like, that sword is long, dude.
Are you overcompensating?
I want whatever he's drinking. We're Hair the Dogcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to find us, we are Hair the Dogcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky. We use some of them sometimes. And you can email us at hairthedogcast@gmail.com. If you want access to these episodes well in advance, access to our bonus shows, our after shows, access to our Discord. We have a great community. We would love to have you. Check out patreon.com/hairthedogcast. And yeah, we even have free trials, so definitely check it out. Special thanks to executive producers Ryan Christianick, Kipper, Brian Ward, Jordan Hoff, Phil Wright, Philium Birkin, Cole Del Gardno, and Bryant Ross. We are part of the Tokyo Beat Podcast Network. Make sure to check out all of the other amazing shows. Tyler, sum up all of Final Fantasy X in 3 sentences, please.
It's just a dream, and daddy issues, and she's got 2 different color eyes, and she dances real good, and like
damn, she can move.
People aren't dead, but they're dead, and there's these things that are 3D printing people out there.
There are also video cameras.
Yeah, they can turn into little crystal cameras, and Kamari talks to me now. I feel like we're really getting along. He's so vulnerable.
Whenever he does talk, he's like, Tidus is super cool. I was like, this means a lot to me. Thank you, bud. Yep. That's all we got for you today. Stay tuned. Part 3 will be coming soon.
We'll talk about why the Xander Kid logo looks a lot like the Hardy Boys logo from WWE.
This is
what?
This is the lore
Shut
I
the
don't know.
hell up. What?